Welcome to the MLB Slate Breakdown. I'm Jason Gilman. With me is Brent Hyde. Taking a look at tonight's Wednesday slate on FanDuel and DraftKings. Not a bad slate here. Going to be some popular offenses that people target. You and I were talking pitching wise. I felt like the other day when we looked, it was like, oh, not a bad pitching slate. And I kind of looked more and I was like, oh, I'm not thrilled here.
No, it's kind of weird. Like the pitchers that I have interest in today are like all going against each other. And so like I keep on finding myself with pitchers going against each other and in my lineups whenever I'm building on SP2 sites. So it's a little bit of a weird night, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think GPPs, especially just to see where people go with pitching. And obviously you have DeGrom there, but over 13K on DraftKings. I know you were hoping for that price to stay down a little bit.
Yeah, they for the past 2 days he's been in the player pool at 9,800, and I was like, I really hope they leave him at 9,800, but I also hope they don't because like that would be dumb. And they of course jacked him up to like 13-2. So good job, DraftKings.
First game here, we got the Yankees and Rangers. Doug Fister taking on CC Sabathia. Fister's a guy, usually 10 lefties. Lefties still have a hard contact rate, 40%, but not 275 WOBA this year. Righties have been clubbing them a little bit. I'm still okay targeting both sides here.
Do we have to keep on doing this Yankee stance?
It's for the sake of the people.
I guess like it's the same thing every single day. Like if you want to use Judge, Stanton, and like Sanchez, who may not be in the lineup tonight, to go for it. Like there's no reason to overlook them in the spot. Both of them in great spots here against Fister, who actually has kind of struggled against righties this season, allowing a 386 WOBA to them. Both hit sinkers really well. Um, Judge a little bit more power and a little bit better contact rate against the pitch, so I would lean him. Um, and then of course Aaron Hicks in a good spot too, has been absolutely on fire recently. But it once again, it's the guys towards the bottom of that order that I have the most interest in. They're the ones that have been doing the damage recently, and like you get like Neil Walker, who's actually been really freaking good of late. As someone that I have a lot of interest in, he's still way too cheap. Like on FanDuel, he's 25 freaking hundred. Like, come on, FanDuel, just get with the program. And like the Andujars and the Glaber Torres, like those are the guys that I'm still more interested in because they're cheaper and they're probably going to go overlooked.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'm curious to see if like Sanchez is out, who takes that fifth spot. I'd imagine they just bump everyone up. I think Hicks would be a guy that I really like here, 4-3. We talked about in the last few days. This guy is just cheaper exposure to this outfield. I know Brett Gardner hasn't been good, but I do have some interest in him as well leading off.
Man, yeah, I guess like he really hasn't been good. Like you're just kind of hoping for like a double and a run scored for him to just get some points, and he has that potential. Didi Gregorius has actually been hitting a little bit better recently, so he's a lefty that I do have a little bit more interest in. Like he has what hits in back-to-back games. Like I know that's nothing phenomenal, but considering it was like 0 for 41 or something that like that before the days off, that's an improvement. And then Austin Romine would be the guy would get in the lineup at catcher if Sanchez is out and he's homered in back-to-back games.
I just wish Didi's price like stayed down. Like he got one single and they're like, oh, back up $700.
Yeah, you had to jump on him whenever he was back into like the 3600s.
Yeah. Other side things here against CC Sabathia. Any interest in CC?
I'm going to go back to the well on these back end Yankees pitchers one more time. Like I know the Rangers have been heating up recently, but I'm willing to try it one more time with CC against a Rangers team that is striking out like 28% of the time against lefties. Just don't do me wrong this time, CC, please.
I mean, there's not a lot of spots I'm worried here. Like the right-handed bats are none of really tremendous power. Yeah, I think he's a decent option, and that takes a lot. I think that says more about the slate for me to say that CC Sabathia is a decent option here.
Yeah, like the only guys you're tremendously worried about here are going to be Robinson Trinos. Jurickson Profar continue. He's been hitting the ball really well recently. He's a guy like you maybe have a little bit concern with, and then like Isaiah Kiner Falefa. But like none of these guys really have any power against like CC's pitch mix except for like Joey Gallo, and that's about it.
Yeah, and the Gallo contact rates are still
Yeah.
so. Yeah, I don't mind him here. 7,900. Like, I think this is just kind of a GPP slate. Like as far as when you dig into some of the secondary pitching options, but like you mentioned, I think Chirinos is the only guy that I really have any tremendous interest in at 3K. But not really looking to pick on CC here.
No, I'm not really either.
Atlanta, Philly next year. Luis Gohara taking on Jake Arrieta. Both two cheap pitching options in this spot. I think there's someone intriguing. Like they're, I think they have to at least be entertained as far as like guys you could use as SP2s here.
Yeah, I think so as well. Like my biggest concern with Gohara is I don't know how deep he's going to go into this game. Like as far as pitching with the Braves, he's only been in 3 outings. He's come out of the bullpen. He did go 3 innings in one of his outings, 44 pitches. So maybe he gets 5 in like 60 to 70 if he can go that far. And that makes him a little bit interesting against this Phillies team. Like they do profile a little bit better against lefties. I mean, only 21% strikeout rate, but like they really struggle against like high velocity fastballs and some of these and sliders, and that's kind of what Gohara is throwing. I will say also there is a little bit of concern, at least from me, as far as if Gohara is even going to really be in this game, because as I was telling you before we started recording, his mom is in Brazil and his mom is really sick. And as soon as this game is over, he's hopping on a plane out of the country to go tend to her. So that's something I think we at least have to consider.
Yeah, I do too. It's definitely one of those things where your mentality not quite all there. You have things other focused on, and as it should. You know, baseball's a secondary thing when it comes to family for a lot of these people. And yeah, I mean that is something to note here. 6'6", I think there is some strikeout upside. I do have interest in a couple of bats here. I think you can take a shot on like Aaron Altherr and like Rhys Hoskins, but that's kind of it.
Yeah, the like Rhys Hoskins is the only guy I really have concern about in the spots. Just insane amount of power against lefties, but like considering he hasn't been hitting recently, I'm not as worried about it.
No, and he's a GPP guy. You know, just not swinging and making a lot of contact this season. And you look, you've mentioned this a lot, just the off-speed stuff that he just can't adjust to this year. And it's weird. We've seen a lot of quality hitters. I saw something about Goldschmidt and Goldschmidt not being able to keep up with high-velocity fastballs. And I was like, man, is Goldschmidt that old? Like, man.
Maybe he needs LASIK.
That's true. Get with Freddie Freeman's guy.
There you go.
No interest in like the back half guys here, like the Francos or King Rees or Alfaros.
No, not really.
Other side things here, Arrieta against the Braves. Arrieta has been much stronger against lefties this year. That ground ball rate up over 50%, not giving up a lot of hard contact. His price is down 6,900. I feel like Arrieta has been a little bit tricky to get a hold of late as far as consistency. I don't mind him. I'm going to probably throw out that last start. I think a 2.5 hour delay in that game really threw him off.
Yeah, like I don't necessarily hate him in the spot, especially at that price on like DraftKings. And we're talking about a Braves team, like they're still not striking out a ton, but like they've kind of been struggling recently. Like over the last 2 weeks, are basically right at league average, 100 WRC plus. Still a decent amount of power, and this is a good park, but at that price, like it is kind of tough to overlook Arrieta. On the flip side, I could see him struggling against some of these bats that hit like the two-seam and sinker that he's throwing a decent amount fairly well. And like guys like Freddie Freeman could punish him here. But again, it's a GPP only play. I don't hate the idea of using him. And again, like I talked about in tournaments, Arrieta and Gohara, two guys I kind of have interest in, and both going against each other.
Yeah, it's like you said. I'm only really looking like Freeman here, a guy who just you continue to trust. I've been kind of turned off by paying over 5K for Albies of late. He's only kind of a guy now I feel like you can kind of use in stacks.
Yeah, and I still kind of prefer him against lefties.
Yeah. I don't really have a ton of interest in like the Markakis or Inciartes here. I think they're better outfield options.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh, Next one here, got the Angels and Blue Jays. Aaron Sanchez versus Tyler Skaggs. I feel like Skaggs might be a guy people use here tonight, and I'm not terribly high on him.
I'm not really that high on him either. I'm not high on picking on him too much. Like there's a couple bats like the Donaldsons and Morales and Teoscars that are a little concerning here, but like I know Skaggs is a guy still giving up a lot of hard contact to right-handed hitters, and this is a lineup that can get pretty right-handed heavy. I don't know. He's not. He's just not a guy I have interest in here.
No, like I get it. Like obviously he's pitched well. It's a limited slated GPP. Yeah, sure, that's fine. But I'm with you. You know, I kind of have some interest in the Hernandez and Donaldsons. I think Smoke's really interesting in this spot as well.
Yeah, Smoke is definitely a little bit interesting here. Still fairly priced. I mean, 3,900 on DraftKings, pretty good price here for him. I do kind of like him, and Teoscar Hernandez. Both him and like Kevin Pillar are interesting outfield options. I think like Hernandez, decent numbers against that fastball that Skaggs just throwing. He's got like a 360 ISO against it.
Yeah, sign me up. And his price relatively back down. It jumped up for a little bit, but he's under 4K again. And like Donaldson, even at 4.4. I know the health bug concerns you a little bit about him, but 4.4 for Donaldson against a lefty is still intriguing.
Yeah, and even someone like down towards the bottom of that order, if you get like Luke Maile in the lineup over Russell Martin, he's hitting the ball really, really freaking hard against lefties this season, like 50% hard contact rate.
Is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. up yet?
Say what?
Is Vlad Guerrero Jr. up yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, man. Soon. Angel side things here. Aaron Sanchez, a guy who's just been, I feel like, somewhat unlucky a little bit here despite the ground ball rate, but still going to have some hard contact. He's been decent against righties this year, though. His lefties have kind of tagged him for a little bit, especially in the ISO department. But I don't know. I kind of might want to trust some of the Angels as far as batted ball stuff against sinkers more so than Sanchez against righties.
Yeah, Sanchez is a guy. I mean, he's given up at least 4 runs in 4 of his 9 outings this season, at least 3 in 3 others. So, like, this is a good spot for the Angels, and they might actually end up being an overlooked stack here. And Ohtani is a guy that I have a ton of interest in, 4,700 on DraftKings. We don't have any real batted ball information on him because, like, we're dealing with still a very small sample. But against right-handed pitching, 69 plate appearances, 453 WOBA, 364 ISO. Numbers are pretty good. So I do definitely like him. And Sanchez, 397 WOBA allowed, 165 ISO to lefties this season. Luis Valbuena struggles with strikeouts, but given the fact that Sanchez isn't a guy with a lot of strikeout stuff, he's someone that is very interesting and should be in the lineup. 3,100 on DraftKings. That's really, really cheap. I do like him a lot. 370 at ISO against Sanchez's like 4-seam fastball and a 250 ISO against those 2-seam sinkers, and then he also hits changeups really well. So this profiles is a good spot for him. And then if you want to go with the righties, obviously it would be dumb to overlook Trout in this spot, Upton in a good spot too. So like this is a good spot for all these Angels bats here.
Yeah, I definitely don't mind them. I feel like you can stack them up here as well, and I don't mind like the Upton Pool, so Tani like Cozart stack or something like that, or even a Simmons. Like I think you can get a little weird here.
Yeah, you definitely can, and like you can get Cozart Kinsler in there, Martin Maldonado at the bottom of the lineup. Good spot for him too.
Yeah, and most of these guys are really, really cheap outside of like Ohtani, Upton, and Trout. And even Ohtani and Upton are not that badly priced.
No, they're really not. And Martin Maldonado, 2,500 on DraftKings, really good value catcher option.
Yep. Next game here, we got Miami and New York. Jacob deGrom taking on Dan Straley. deGrom over 13K on DraftKings, but I mean, he is the ace of the slate. Cash games, I'm certainly okay with kind of plugging him in. Cash or GPPs, as always, I feel like you can go some other directions, but there still are not a ton of other safe directions.
No, there's really not. And if you want to roll him out, he's got a pretty safe floor. Like I know he's kind of struggled in this matchup the last time these teams faced off. You get the Jake deGrom home road split theory, I guess, in play there. But this is a good spot for him. Like I know the Marlins aren't his team that strikes out a ton. We're still dealing with like right around 24%, but a lot of that comes from like Lewis Brinson and a couple other really high strikeout bats that may not even get in the lineup. So it's a great spot for him. So if you want to pay for him, you want to pay that price, go for it. Like it's a little bit easier to get him on like FanDuel where he's 10-4 or maybe fantasy draft. But yeah, if you want to roll him out, feel free.
Yep, definitely. And not picking on DeGrom here with anyone. Met side things, cheap bats here, cheap bats that continue to kind of let me down every now and then. I don't mind them in GPPs. I think they're an interesting GPP stack. There is some home run potential. It's warm weather out there in New York, which is nice right now. I do have interest in like the Jay Bruce and Confortos and, Cabreras and Nemos here.
Yeah, that outfield trio's a little bit interesting here. I don't hate the idea of using them if you want to stack the Mets up, but like, I don't know, every time I stack the Mets, it's just a recipe for disappointment. So I don't know that I'm going to get a ton of exposure, but like Conforto and Nemo, definitely good options. Asdrubal Cabrera profiles as a pretty good option here. So does Adrian Gonzalez. I'm mostly interested in like the lefties, I think.
Yeah, and at least really, I mean, home run potential is there for these guys here. Like he's a guy who has a ton of fly balls in the power, especially to the left-handers. Like I don't mind going after them. Like you said, they are a team that just kind of tends to be very boom or bust.
Yeah, for sure. And like I don't know, Luis Guillorme is probably going to get in the lineup over like Jose Reyes. He'd be an interesting value bat. Like actually, I don't even know if Reyes not projected in the lineup, so maybe Guillorme doesn't get in.
And who the hell knows what they'll do with Jose Bautista either.
Yeah, maybe it's like over Wilmer Flores or something that he'll get in the lineup. And like, because I know they want to use him at third against righties, so we'll see who he gets in the lineup over.
Yeah, I would assume Flores here in this spot, but you never know.
Probably.
Next game here, we got Boston and Tampa. Chris Archer versus David Price. Really low total here. Really low total for the Boston side of things. I know Archer's been pitching, a little bit better, but I'm kind of still surprised to see them under 4.
Yeah, I am a little bit as well. Obviously, the park has something to do with it. Also, the fact that like Archer not really bad against right-handed hitters, and like you're only going to get like maybe 3 lefties in that lineup, unless they finagle a way to get Moreland in there. If that happens, like I would actually have a lot of interest in a Boston like lefty stack with Benintendi and Moreland and like Devers and JBJ or something. Because Archer, dating back to last season, 42% hard contact to lefties. Like that's a lot of hard contact for some of these power hitters. So it is a little bit interesting. Benintendi's I feel like is a solid like floor cash game option in this spot.
Yeah, I do too. I like lefties here. Archer 1.30 homers per 9, dating back to last year. Has been hit hard by lefties this season alone as well. And I like Benintendi even at a 4.8 price tag. And if Devers, pops in the lineup here, 3.3 for him is definitely interesting. I would definitely be more inclined, like Moreland would be huge if he gets in this lineup, and I think he should.
Yeah, I could see them like putting him in the lineup over Hanley.
Please. That needs to be an everyday thing. Yeah, I don't have an interest in really the right-handers here.
You mean you don't want to pay 5.9 for Mookie?
He's back under 6K. I don't hate like a Bogarts because he's still cheap on DraftKings, like 4.2, but yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, I agree. And like if this lineup is like right-handed heavy, Archer, it would be really, really, really tough to trust him. But at 6,700, Archer not a terrible like tournament option.
I don't think so. I could, I think you kind of put it in context of his last start against the Angels, where it's kind of a similar thing where he could face 7 righties in that lineup. And yes, there's a lot of power righties, but he's got that nasty slider that can get guys out.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Rays side things here against David Price. David Price, I don't know what to do with you tonight. Was not on him in that last start against Baltimore. Complete game shutout under 100 pitches. He's pitched well against Tampa this year, but I feel like Tampa's a little bit of a different team here. I kind of don't actually hate a Tampa stack.
Well, he pitched well against Tampa in 2 outings and then got shelled in another outing. So,
but that was Fortnite David Price in that third one.
Yeah, I guess. This is a little bit of an interesting spot, actually. Like, I do not hate the idea of using Tampa bats against him. Like, I think he's fine if you want to roll him out. Like Tampa, 20, almost 24% strikeout rate against lefties this season, but you get a lot of guys that hit the ball really, really hard. And I know this park is terrible, but like, if you want to roll him out, like, feel free. I think he's going to be way too popular for tournaments, though.
I think he will. Like, I think he's going to be 20+% here just because he's under 9K against the Rays. And I know the strikeout stuff is there, but this team is actually very solid against right-handers. I know the name value doesn't stand out, but we've seen Robertson, Crone, Ramos. We saw Willie Adames go yard last night off Chris Sale. He should be in the lineup here tonight. I feel like these guys have solid, numbers against lefties.
Yeah, Ramos may not be in the lineup. He left the game yesterday. He's confident he'll avoid a trip to the DL, but may not be in the lineup. But if he is, he's a guy to kind of consider in the spot. But like the guys you mentioned, CJ Cron mashes lefties, 270 ISO dating back to last season, 222 ISO against cutters, and a 402 WOBA against two seam sinkers, and that's about 70% of Price's pitch mix to right-handed hitters. I do kind of like him. Robertson, interesting. I love like Christian Arroyo and Willie Adames as guys that like I don't think anyone would consider using. Willie Adames 3,100, Christian Arroyo 3K. Interesting options here, and Johnny Field could turn into Johnny Homer tonight.
I mean, I think they're great like fillers and lineups and stuff in GPPs too, like because they're all cheap. Like, oh, hey, I need a cheap second baseman. I can go down to Robertson.
Yeah, and they're an interesting like value stack as far as like if you want to pay up for two pitchers because you can get like another value stack that we're going to talk about that's way underpriced in their matchup, and then you can fill in like Tampa Bay and then get like two expensive pitchers.
Sure. This one here, you got the Reds and Pirates. Homer Bailey take on Chad Kuhl. This is definitely an offensive game to target here.
We thought the same thing last night too.
Positive vibes here, Brent. Positive vibes.
Yes. This is the game that I talked about, value stack, and that's the Reds. Like Jesse Winker is 3K against Chad Kuhl. Scott Schebler 3,800. Like Scooter and Votto are a little bit expensive, but this is a really, really good spot for the Cincinnati lefties. I just wish they had more that they could get in the lineup because Chad Kuhl is giving up like a lot of hard contact and a lot of power to lefties, like 240 ISO, 377 WOBA. Yeah, it's a good spot for these lefties again.
I like him here. I like them all. Even like a Tucker Barnhart down at the bottom of the order. I don't mind as a catching option. And you mentioned Votto. Like I don't think he's by Votto standards. Like I don't think he's that badly priced at 4.4.
No, he's really not. Like he's not overpriced by any means. It's just not, I guess, not really a quote unquote value play.
Yeah, but I mean, a good value stack here. I like Schebler here a lot in this spot. Like ton of power upside.
Yeah, I just hope he gets in the lineup.
I know. For some reason, like whenever some of these outfielders, it's like perfect spots for him, and they just don't get in the lineup.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but he should be in there, and he's a fantastic option. Like like I said, Schebler and Winker, like those two guys in the outfield, way too cheap.
Yeah. Other side things here against Bailey, Pirates, a little bit of a letdown. Not a little bit. They were a letdown last night outside of like Moran and Meadows.
I got my home run call on Meadows. Woohoo!
You did. I like some of the bats here again, like against Bailey. Like I'll go back to the well, especially with some of these left-handed bats like Polanco and Bell and Dickerson, all interesting power options. And I don't mind the Moran again here at 3.7.
Yeah, the outfield trio: Polanco, Dickerson, Meadows, all in really good spots. Dickerson is very interesting, 217, 340 WOBA split against righties dating back to last season. Meadows, we're dealing with a very limited sample, but 439 WOBA against righties, and that might have actually gone up after he homered last night. But don't overlook Polanco with like that 216 ISO against Bailey's fastball. He's also mashed changeup with like a 302 ISO, and he's put the ball in the air a decent amount this season.
Yeah, his power numbers I think are better than what's shown for sure. Like he's got a ton of power.
Yeah, like he's got like a 56% fly ball rate this season. Like not a lot of hard contact, only like 35% against righties, but that's still decent numbers.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 311 ISO to lefties from Bailey this year.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it as a little game stack as well. You know, you can play some of these Pirates outfielders and use like a Votto and Jeanette or Shebler as well.
Yeah, and Colin Moran, like that homer he hit last night was ridiculous, but like dude's been raking, and like I don't think people are paying that much attention to it, and like I don't think people ever want to use him because he's always down at the bottom of that order, like 6 or 7 spot.
And he plays at third base too. Like, not a lot of people are going to be throwing Colin Moran at third base.
Yeah, and like that 4, 5, 6, 7 stack in that lineup, you Bell, Dickerson, Moran, Meadows, that's pretty sneaky because Bell also profiles really well in the spot.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. 4, 5, 6, 7, 4 lefties right there.
Yeah.
So, next game here, we got the Cubs and Indians. John Lester taking on Adam Plutko. I don't think I'm going to have interest in either of these pitchers here.
No, I don't think so either. Just not really a large sample for Plutko for me to feel comfortable using him. Like he does throw that slider a decent amount to righties, and we have seen the Cubs like really struggle against some of these young pitchers with some decent off-speed stuff. So if they don't load up a bunch of like lefties in the lineup, he might be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, that's the case. Like, Cubs have done that a couple times where we've seen like Schwarber sit out, and even if Ian Happ gets in there, it's still strikeout upside.
Yeah, he's not really a lefty I worry about that much because he's going to strike out like 45% of the time.
Which is good for us.
Yes.
I will say Rizzo, I do have some interest in here tonight, even though once again just hasn't been that solid this year. But hard contact rate still there. 208 BABIP suggests a little bit of unluckiness here for Rizzo, so I don't mind him. And I think people are kind of burned to playing him, but 4-5 is a nice price.
Yeah, it is. I think I'm going to probably lean a couple other spots. And as far as like first base goes, but like Rizzo's interesting. Schwarber, as you mentioned, is interesting. Zobrist, if he gets in the lineup in the leadoff spot, is interesting. Like the lefties are the ones that I have the most interest in because, like I said, we're dealing with a very small sample, only 7 innings, but Plutko has shown like to kind of get rocked by lefties, and he's not really throwing a whole lot other than his fastball against lefties. So.
Indian side here, I definitely don't mind some of these bats against Leicester. Like Jose Ramirez really stands out as like a pay-up option coming off a solid night, but numbers against cutters is, dating back 2016, 231 ISO, 91% contact rate, and that's a pitch that Leicester will lean on outside of that 90-mile-per-hour fastball that's getting hit very hard this year.
I actually really like the Indians in the spot. Like the more I look at it, like you mentioned Jose Ramirez, this is a great spot for him. 252 ISO, 392 WOBA against lefties dating back to last season. You mentioned his numbers against cutters. Also decent numbers, 253 ISO against that four-seamer that Leicester throws. Francisco Lindor, really good spot for him as well. E5, he profiles as a really, really good option here. And then like Brandon Guyer down probably towards the bottom of that lineup is a very, very good value bet. Good numbers against Leicester and limited sample, but only 2,800. He's that platoon guy that we really love against lefties.
Yeah, like I like some of the back half. Like I like the Guyer call. I think Young Gomes is interesting behind the dish. If like Rajai Davis gets a lineup, I don't hate him either. Got some stolen base upside as well. Like I'm not buying the Indians implied total at 3.7. That's for damn sure.
No, I'm definitely not. And Brandon Guyer, guy you mentioned, 12 batted ball events, 357 ISO against cutters.
Yeah, so definitely some pop in this lineup. And Lester, once again, not a guy that's, terribly a guy that you want to fade against right now. I know he had a decent start against the Reds in Chicago, but against some of the better offenses this year, he hasn't done too well.
No, he hasn't. And I mean, we're talking, I guess only a 310 WOBA allowed to righties this season, but like 40% fly ball rate, 37% hard contact. So not a great spot for him, I don't think.
And walks are up as well.
Yeah.
So next one, Baltimore and Chicago. Dylan Covey taking on Alex Cobb. So we're gonna get another 3-2 game here, right?
Probably.
This series has been so tilting.
It's both these pitchers are so freaking bad, but like both these offenses are also so freaking bad. Like it is very, very tilting. And like you know what's gonna happen is the next series for the Orioles, whoever they're playing, they're gonna get like a quality pitcher and they're gonna put up 17 more runs and everyone's gonna tilt off the cliff because they couldn't do it against Dylan Covey.
Yep. Or James Shields or Hector Santiago.
Yeah.
I mean, looking back, obviously, like Covey's a guy who's been mashed by both sides of the plate. 429 one with the righties, 371 with the lefties. I don't hate going back to the well with Baltimore stacks. Just if you want to, like, you might as well finish out this series, right?
Yeah, it's mostly like his two seam that he's really struggling with. Like he's not throwing his curve that much, but like his two seams getting hit pretty hard this season, his slider as well. But like I'd be looking at guys like Manny Machado, 92% contact rate, 217 or 202 ISO against that two seamer. So he stands out as a really good option. Adam Jones. I love Pedro Alvarez in the spot. Like he's probably my top bat from the Baltimore side outside at Machado.
Yeah, I like it. I like the Jones call as well. He's shown some power against righties this year, 228 ISO, hard contact rate up 38%. And I think that wasn't the case last year. Last year was weird. Adam Jones just not making a lot of hard contact. And this season finally looks like just hasn't really been rewarded as far as like average wise.
Yeah, for sure. And like I outlined, like if you look at his Dylan Covey's numbers this season, very, very small sample. It's only like 101 pitches or something. He's allowed a 250 ISO on his two seamer and where did it go? And that's pretty much it. And that's to righties. So yeah, focus on the guys that hit those two seamers really well.
Chicago side of things here against Cobb. I want to go with some of the Chicago bats. It's just I've been going with them all series and they haven't done anything.
Yeah, at least they're not going against a guy that has any strikeout stuff. So like that will mitigate the 30% strikeout rate for half of these guys.
It's true. Well, at least we think.
It's true. In theory, this is a great spot for Moncada. 240 ISO, 374 WOBA against right-handed pitching dating back to last season. Doesn't profile as a great option against the pitches that Cobb is throwing, but I'm still willing to take a shot on him here. Yolmer Sanchez, a guy that typically does not strike fear into anybody, has posted like a 333 ISO against that four-seamer that Cobb is throwing, and that's a pitch that he's kind of getting hit hard. So I do kind of like him. And then Daniel Palka is very, very interesting. Very small sample, only 3 batted ball events, but against that curveball, he's got like a 600 ISO against it.
Yeah, I like some Palka here. I do like Sanchez, for the reasons you mentioned here. And Abreu, of course, is always someone you can play who dropped in price by 100 on DK, but 40 went with 393 against Cobb's fastball range. A guy with a 231 ISO against righties this year. Just continues to be a guy who kind of just fits in your lineups and is a relatively safe cash game guy.
Yeah, and I don't hate even like Tim Anderson. He got the day off yesterday because his legs were tired. Poor guy, tired legs. Has a 426 ISO against Cobb's four-seamer, so I do kind of like him a little bit too.
That's pretty much it here. Yeah.
Beef, a little bit of beef, revenge game still.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, him and Davidson both power options.
Yeah, for sure.
Seattle, Oakland next here. Game here, Daniel Gossett versus Marco Gonzalez. I'm not loving both these teams are really banged up right now.
Yeah, I'm still loving the Mariners though.
Against Gossett, how can you not?
Yeah, I mean, like I know they're banged up. Like Cruz probably not going to be in the lineup. Like he hasn't been sent to the DL, but like probably not going to be in the lineup. Mitch Haniger left the game yesterday. But like you still have guys in this lineup that's profile really well against Gossett, who is giving up like a lot of hard contact and a lot of power to both sides of the plate.
Yeah. Like the Seagers are still there, the Seguras. Ryan Healy is an interesting GPP guy here just because no one's going to look at him. One for not against a lefty, but just out there in this ballpark, I think this game's going to be completely overlooked. Ben Gamel getting going a little bit here. He's under 3K if you need a value outfielder.
Yeah, Seager's a guy who stands out really, really well. Let's see, 205 ISO, 319 WOBA against righties dating back to last season. Against that two-seam fastball, which Gossett's two-seam fastball is allowed like almost a 300 ISO on it. Seager's posted a 252 ISO dating back to 2016. So good power option here. Vogelbach is back. He's a good power threat at first base if you want to fade Ryan Healy, but like Ryan Healy only like 180 ISO, 304 WOBA against right-handed pitching, but 330 ISO and 437 WOBA against that fastball that Gossett's throwing. So I do like the Healy call. Zunino, great spot for Zunino, 230 ISO off those two-seam sinkers. So anybody that gets in that lineup, Gene Segura profile is a really good option. Heredia, Gamel, if they're in the lineup, they're in play tonight.
And you're going to find some punt options here just because of all the injuries.
Yeah, you're going to get like Gordon Beckham in the lineup, who isn't great, but he's a punt option.
Zunino's 3-1, like Gamel's 2-8. Like Heredia could be hitting second at 2-4.
Yeah, like Andrew Romine may be in the lineup. He's a guy, and like I'm kind of interested to see like if I don't know who they'd move out there. I guess Romine would probably get moved to the outfield.
Is Taylor Motter up there?
No, he was a guy I was just looking at. Like if they call him up, he'd be a guy that I might be interested in.
Yeah, get him in your all hair lineups.
Yeah, I can't wait till I can tweet out you Motter Fokker. Whenever he homers.
Oakland side of things here, Gonzalez actually pitched somewhat well this year. He's limited some hard contact. I don't know if I completely buy it, but he hasn't been bad.
No, I don't. I just don't have a lot of interest because there's not a lot of bats here to really like. Matt Chapman, again, excellent in this matchup. Gonzalez, like, has allowed a 200 ISO on a sinker. Matt Chapman, 327 ISO on the pitch, 205 ISO dating back to last season. So he's a little bit interesting. Mark Canha and maybe Chad Pender are the guys that I would be looking at here, but I'm not really in love with the Oakland bats.
I'm not either. Chapman's the guy, as you mentioned, just does profile well against these pitches, but overall, like you said, like no Chris Davis for some reason just takes this thing out of here. Lowry's cooled down a little bit. Marcus Semien, I do have a little bit of interest in just because there aren't a ton of shortstops tonight and 4K leading off. I don't hate that move. Yeah,
I just find myself going more with like Segura, Machado, Lindor, some of those guys.
Yeah. Next one here, we got Rockies and Dodgers. Kenta Maeda take on Kyle Freeland. I don't really have interest in bats here. I do think both these pitchers are viable, though.
Yeah, I find myself building a lot of lineups with these two going against each other, and I know that's pretty counterintuitive, but like there's a chance that neither one of these guys gets the win anyways because both these offenses are terrible and they can just both go like 6 2/3 and like a run gets hit off someone in the bullpen or something and the win goes to the reliever. But like Freeland, he's been outstanding. Like he's upped his strikeout rate to like 22.4% this season. He's still got a decent ground ball rate, limiting hard contact to both sides of the plate. I still feel like I know his price is elevated, but like I still feel like he's a very, very, very good option here. Like dude's gone at least 6 1/3 in 5 straight games. He said strikeouts are up a little bit for him. This Dodgers offense against lefties, 22% strikeout rate. Just they're putrid. Like the only guy I'm really worried about in that lineup is Justin Turner.
Yeah, that's the only guy I was about ready to bring up. You mentioned Freeland here. Like I do think he's a solid option. Throwing that slider quite a bit this year, about 28% of the time. Opponents 102 ISO, 196 WOBA, just a 26% hard contact and over 40% whiff rate on it. Like I don't mind him here. And like you said, Turner's the only bat that really stands out against sliders.
Yeah. That's it.
Other side of things here, Maeda. I guess I worry a little bit more about him, which is where the strikeouts are there. But I know he can struggle against lefties sometimes, and that kind of does concern me. But there is some strikeout upside here.
Yeah, when I put him up in the cheat sheets, I broke it down a little bit differently than I do with everyone else because there's a lot of good that comes with Kenta Maeda, and there's also a lot of bad that comes with Kenta Maeda. Like the good part is the Rockies are terrible against right-hand pitching. He has a 26.1% strikeout rate. Like he is struggling against lefties, but he's still doing a good job of limiting hard contact. And he's fairly cheap. The bad part is Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts, and he's also prone to getting blown up at times. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, long story short, do not play him in cash games.
I mean, I think he's cash viable. Like, I'm potentially like I would only use him in GPPs personally, but he is cash viable because the matchup is pretty good. Just know that Dave Roberts is probably going to pull some BS like he does pretty much every single time Kent is on the mound.
Yeah, I'm ready for the classic 4.2 innings going there tonight.
Yeah, it's like a 4.2 inning no hitter, and it gets pulled. But again, this is a Dave Roberts thing. Like we just have to expect it, and if it doesn't happen, we have to embrace it. But don't get pissed whenever this happens because you should know already the risk is there with Dave Roberts pulling him early.
Yeah, there's a very long track record of that happening.
Yes.
Home run calls tonight. Who do you got?
Let me go with Kyle Seager and Scott Schebler.
Come on, Schebler, really?
I'm going for 3 days in a row here. I gotta get a good one in there.
Give me Joey Votto, and then let's go Daniel Palka here.
He was a guy I was considering.
Well, I'm surprised you didn't take him.
I thought about it.
That's it for us. No pod tomorrow. Small slate, very small slate. I think it's only 3 games for the night game, but we'll be back on Friday. Cheat sheets, content, everything else up on dailyfantasycafe.com. So we'll see you guys Friday.
Good luck tonight.